In this video, I try to get better at golf by only practicing with my Wii. If I succeed, I have found a cheap and reliable tool to practice golf in the house. But this could change my mechanics and make me even worse. So today, I'm here to find out if this crazy idea actually works. I'll keep it real with you guys. I am 25 years old, and being in my mid-20s, I can do one of three things. I can run a marathon, I can play pickleball, or I could get into golf. Three great options, I know. So recently, I've chosen the latter. I've chosen golf, and I found out that I am not very good. You see, the problem with golf as a hobby is that it's pretty expensive. I mean, whether or not you're going out for 9 holes, 18 holes, or even the driving range, it's gonna cost you a fair amount of money. And as a PhD student with a student's income, I don't have that type of bread. So I've been looking online to see how people have been training without spending a lot of money. What I've found is, all these people making simulators in their households. Looks like a great idea. I love it. It looks awesome. I don't have to leave the house. What more could you ask for? Have you looked at the prices of these simulators? Oh my goodness. I mean, are we shocked though? Are we surprised at golf being super expensive? But I found a solution, or at least I think I found a solution that I want to test out. You see, there is a piece of technology that I feel like a lot of us have been sleeping on, and it was developed 20 years ago. So yeah, I might have duct taped a Wii remote to my 5-iron. So the goal was simple. I was gonna give myself a few weeks time to try to get better. Now, I didn't have a lot of what you would call forethought when it comes to making this video, but I wanted to make it anyway, so here we are. A few weeks ago, I went out with a buddy and we went golfing for the first time this year in 2026, and I thought that would be a good baseline. Now, I didn't have anything recorded, but I did track all my shots and I tracked my score. Okay, so that's gonna be the baseline. That's gonna be like the control that we are going to compare against after this 2-week period or so, where I'm just gonna be solely focused on Wii Golf. I'm not gonna do anything else unless it's in Wii Golf. Which, pause, reminds me, I gotta show you my setup. Not only did I duct tape the Wii remote to my golf club, but what I also did was I had to have something hold down the A button, because in Wii Golf, that is how you declare that you are going to actually take a shot and not just do a practice swing, right? Advanced technology for 2006, I know. First, I gotta check if it, okay, that's tight. I'm not gonna bore you with the whole 9-hole commentary thing that we're doing, but I went through 2 different attempts. I played through the course 2 times, so a full 18 on day 1, and I got +9 on both attempts. So not great. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement, but on day 1, I can't ask for much than just starting. So honestly, all things considered, not that bad. All right, day 2, I was back at the grind looking for some good improvement, and I actually found some. I got my first birdie today, and I was way too excited. I was way too excited to get this birdie.
Why did I do that? That wasn't really even that cool.
I actually did get a few birdies today, so on my second time, I honed it down a little bit. I played it a little bit more coy. But I ended the day with 2 more rounds.
There we go. +2. +2. That's more like it, man.
However, 4 times of going through this 9-hole course that's offered in the game, I'm starting to see a trend where I mess up the most, and that's hole 9. Now, hole 9 should be infamous for being hard, right? But this just feels cruel.
Stay. No. Stay. No. This damn hole, man. This damn hole.
It's by far the toughest hole in Wii Golf, even though it doesn't look that challenging to begin with. There are these 4 main islands that you have to navigate through in order to get to the main hole or the main island with the green on it. However, these islands are fairly spaced apart where you gotta be precise on these. Honestly, the green itself, once you get to that final island, the green is really simple. It's just a little hill with the hole or the pin on top. Pretty simple to land it once you get onto that green, but it's just the fact of getting onto that green. I'm already getting onto the green like +7, +8. It's bad. And so I continued to just chip away at it slowly but surely. I would get home from work every single day and just play Wii Golf. Some days when I got home, I only had the time to play like 1 round, so I just boot it up real quick, play a round, and then call it a day. But then there was other days where I felt like I had a little bit more time to commit to this challenge, so I would give it a few rounds every day sort of thing. Just continue to chip away, working towards it. And I knew this going in. I knew that I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate towards playing Wii Golf, but I tried to take that to my advantage by using a motor learning concept called space learning. Space learning is a concept similar to like space repetition that you can see in memorization, whether it's typically found in language learning. The idea is that if you slowly make small improvements over time, you're actually going to retain the knowledge a lot quicker. And we can transfer that over into space learning, where instead of just memorizing something for a flashcard, you are memorizing a motor pattern or a motor technique. But like, how do you learn a motor technique or a motor skill? Well, surprisingly, it's a very highly debated topic in the world of motor learning and motor control, but essentially it involves a feedback loop. What you have is 4 things. You have your initial environment, the sensory inputs that you get, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, everything around your environment. The second part is your motor program. So you're gonna use the sensory inputs that you have and create a best strategy to solve the problem. Not only is this the strategy for what you're actually going to do, but you're also gonna have an expectation of what the outcome is going to be. So you're thinking, if I do it this way or if I do it that way, there's gonna be this outcome to it. If I do X, Y is going to happen. The third thing is the actual movement. So you perform the movement. And finally, that leads into the 4th thing, which is the feedback or the response. So based on the movement that you had, it's going to tell you whether or not it was good or bad, whether it was a successful thing or an unsuccessful thing. In terms of golf, you can just see where the ball landed. For other skills, maybe you have a coach tell you, hey, you did this correctly, you didn't do this one correctly though. How you learn is you compare your expectation to the actual feedback response outcome. So you compare the two together and then you save what worked and what didn't. And you use that for your initial strategy in your motor plan in step 2. But this comes into the biggest question for this entire video. Is the Wii Golf good enough and accurate enough to give good feedback? Because I'm changing and I'm alternating my entire swing pattern to fit what Wii Golf deems is a good swing or a bad swing. If it's inconsistent, my mechanics are going to be screwed up when I actually go back to the golf course. So it really needs to be accurate and good. So there's only one way to find out, and that's just to continue working through Wii Golf training to see if I get any better on the actual golf course. And maybe this motor learning or the space learning strategy that I implemented here seemed like it was starting to work. I was starting to shoot under par on these last few days, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. I started to understand the game more and more as I continued to play. I ended up with one round that I ended 3 under par, with birdies on holes 3, 4, and 5. And then later that same day, I hit my first eagle. My first ever eagle that I've ever hit in Wii Golf. But needless to say, I was feeling a lot more confident about this challenge around this time, where I was just hitting really good shots, getting really consistent with where I wanted to hit. So much so that I was getting good at hole 9. I was starting to learn, and it was such a cool feeling. And see, I really wanted to get a 3D capture of my swing to analyze, but I didn't have the technology in my living room. But what I do have is my phone. Now, there is an app that was developed by Stanford University called OpenCap. It's free to use. It's on the App Store right now. It's not a plug for it whatsoever. I just really like what they do there. And I've used this app before, whether it was in a couple different classes when I was getting my master's degree or just in general. And it's really cool. So I recorded myself, then I extracted the data and compared it to the data that has been empirically shown to be good or bad through published articles. I collected a few different data points, but I was mostly interested in this metric called the X factor, which I've kind of heard of before, but never really dove too deep into it. Now, the X factor is essentially the difference between your hips and your shoulders at the top of your backswing. It was coined by John Androsani of Golf Magazine and introduced by Jim McLean in 1992 in the Golf Magazine article Widen the Gap. He partnered with Mike McTeague for his data analysis, essentially. Mike had this company called SportsSense where he developed a product called the Swing Motion Trainer. It's just an interesting backstory of the X Factor, which essentially just came from a magazine, and everybody decided that it was a very true measure. Which really makes you question, what is the biomechanical framework behind this X factor, right? What is actually the justification of what's going on? And the article really doesn't mention much. It doesn't really have much of anything. There was this guy in 2008 named Jeff Mann who created a critical review article on the X factor and did try to provide a biomechanical analysis of their own. Jeff argued there's no coil spring-like feature of the human body when you wind up the torso and keep the hips stationary. However, I would argue the opposite. There is a concept in tissue biomechanics called the stretch shortening cycle, and that can come into play here. The reason why is because you are loading potential energy when you're lengthening the muscle that is going to contract. And then that sudden change between eccentric and concentric uses that elastic energy that was stored to create more power. It's no different here in the golf swing. When you're actually going into that backswing, you're stretching the latissimus dorsi of the lead shoulder and back, and you're increasing the stretch by keeping your hips stationary, increasing that lengthening action, which maximizes the elastic energy potential of your swing on the downswing. And now this hip movement is something that's really important for the next variable that I found out to be kind of a red flag for my golf swing in terms of performance, which is the hip drive. So it's really important to have peak pelvic rotational velocity in the downswing. So you essentially coiled all up and now you're recoiling through, but you're starting at the hips. So you really want to have that rotational velocity of your hips first, and then basically transferring that kinetic chain from your hips to your trunk, to your shoulders, to your hands, to the golf club, to the ball. Now, driving from the hips is no different conceptually to a baseball swing. Now, biomechanically, it's a little bit different, but the kinetic chain is still there, where you're utilizing the power from your legs through your hip rotation. So at this downswing, you really want to have optimal peak velocity of your hips. Looking at my data though, my peak torso velocity is occurring first. The peak velocity of my hips are actually happening in the mid follow through after I've already hit the ball. So I'm exuding all this power and all this energy, and I'm just wasting it because the ball's already left my club. So I guess my biggest takeaway from what I need to do based on this kinematic analysis that I just got from my phone is essentially I need to lead with my hips on my downswing, and then I also need to increase the coil, that coil up nature between my back muscles and then my abdomen. That's just me from a biomechanics standpoint, and that's what's working for me potentially. I don't want to say that this is general knowledge for everybody because each individual person is pretty different. So I would encourage you to download OpenCap yourself or get an entire analysis done by a professional. This is just for content. This is just for fun, but I like to try to be as accurate as possible in these videos. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do it. And if you are interested in doing it and would like my script, it took me a little bit to actually understand the API, so I can send it to anybody who's interested to get some of their own data. But with that being said, it was already time. Judgment Day has arrived. All right, welcome to the course, or should I say mini course. This is an executive hole 9 course in Michigan where I could walk on for $10. It's not necessarily bad per se, but it does have a few limitations to it. First of all, most of these holes are hole 3s and hole 4s. I'm really not gonna take my driver out too many holes, so it's not a full representation of an actual round of golf. However, this is what I did for my baseline, and I'd like to keep it consistent after this Wii Sports training. And when I went on my baseline, I had plus 17. Not bad, but definitely not great, and something that I want to try to beat today. Hole 1, and I am nervous. I have not hit the ball today. No warm up, I'm just straight shooting. It's 132 to the pin for this par 3. I'm using my 7-iron because it's by far the club that I feel the most comfortable with. And with my first hit, I got on the green. I mean, look at my face. I know it's gonna be a great day, so let's just stop this video here. Why not? All right, second shot, I'm lining up for it, and my practice swings are a little heavy. And for birdie, I put way too much on it. All right, third shot, no worries. I'm on the fringe of the rough, but it's okay. I'm gonna putt this anyway, just because I don't feel like I'm gonna chip this any closer to the pin than if I just putt it, and I should have chipped it. Fourth shot, no lineup needed, bug in my face. Pressure is on to hit this bogey so I don't start off too deep in the hole. And I miss it. Fifth stroke here, putting it, and honestly, I would have given myself this shot because that's insane. Sixth stroke, I finally tap it into the hole, and although I have a smile on my face, I am tied with my baseline score, and I was thinking about the 5-putt choke job that I just did on camera. Nevertheless, hole 2, here we go. Another par 3, and I'm pulling out the 6-iron here. It's about 178 yards to the pin. All right, lining up, and I topped it, but not so bad. It stayed relatively straight, a little to the right, but not too bad. I can chip this onto the green, I think. And here we are to get on the green. Straight disappointment. All right, take 2 to try to chip it onto the green to save my par. And yeah, my chipping sucks. All right, stroke 4, I have learned how fast these greens are today, and I'm putting from the fairway because I used my schema theory from before to create a better motor plan for this, and I'm just gonna let you watch this.
Oh! You gotta be joking me. That's crazy.
Yeah, so stroke 5 was just an illusion. I don't know what you saw, but I saw 4 strokes on that, so we're giving a bogey. All right, back to business. Hole 3, 180 to the pin, using my 5-iron for this one. And it went right into the rough. Get this card out of my shot. All right, hole 3, and I'm starting to develop some confidence for some reason into why I'm chipping this onto the green. Not a bad hit though.
It's not looking too hot right now.
All right, hole 4. It is 309 to the pin, but it is 220 to the creek. So I'm taking my hybrid out here and trying to veer it right so I can have an opening to get over the creek because of that tree line right in the way there. All right, first hit, and I hit it dead straight. That's great, not bad. But the problem is that I'm gonna have a tough shot on stroke 2.
I don't know if I've ever hit a shot where I'm just blindly going over something and I don't know where it's gonna land. I got my 7-iron right now, and I'm just gonna try to whack it. The only problem is, right behind the green, there's a highway, and I really don't want to hit any cars. So I don't want to get that mental going and then hit it too shallow and into the trees. But we're just gonna rip it and see what happens. Oh no. Oh! Popped out. I think that might be playable. We gotta find out. Alright. Well. Right here. Well, I'm gonna try to play it as is. Here goes nothing. I did that. What?
Yeah, that was the craziest shot of my life. I kid you not, that was crazy. I don't know how I pulled that off. It's really not that good of a shot, but just in terms of the luckiness to not get a penalty on those last few is beyond me. It's a miracle. But now I'm just trying to get this onto the green and have an attempt at a bogey sweep. All right, hole 5, the pin is up a hill here, 218 from the tee box. I smoked this over the tree line and I have no idea where it went, but I do know that there's a pond to the right and I need to clear that. The good news is that I didn't hear a big sploosh, so I think it should be good. My girlfriend was really happy to see the baby geese. It was the start of spring, so they were out and about, and hey, my ball actually ended up barely getting past the pond, and now it's a tough chip shot up the hill. And at this point, I'm feeling a little bit confident now about my chipping now that I got warmed up. And yeah, it was the worst shot of my life. Oh my goodness. Wow, you really suck. All right, no worries though. It's a par 4. I can make it up with this chip shot, right? Oh my God. Chipped on and it's just rolling and rolling and oh yeah, okay, it finally stopped. Perfect. Stroke 5, and honestly, it's a nice putt, but it broke more than I thought. All right, hole 6 here. 146 to the pin, 7 iron being taken out. I gotta go back to my roots here. I gotta find some confidence. Stroke 1 here, and honestly, it's a beautiful shot. My irons are on today. All right, here we go. Stroke 2, another chip, another chance for disappointment. Not a bad shot, but I was obviously not happy about it. Stroke 3, another chip shot here because it rolled off to the green to the right, and honestly not a bad chip either. Dude.
Told you I was gonna 4-putt it.
All right, hole 7, 174 to the pin. I'm looking straight into the sun, a 6 iron in my hand, and it's just another beautiful shot that landed me right on the green. Oh my goodness. Which lines me up for stroke 2, which is just another long putt for birdie potential. And I'm starting to see hole 1 creep into the back of my mind again, but I'm not gonna let it happen this time.
Thought too much about it. Oh. You know, if I was by myself, I would have just given me a par there. So considering that I probably would have done that at my baseline before this challenge existed, I think I should give myself a par for that. That's a gimme shot. I make that 3 out of 10 times. So it's a gimme.
All right, hole 8, stroke 1 here off the tee box. I'm taking out the driver on this one. Definitely my first attempt here at this. All right, stroke 2, 9 iron here, and it's a pretty well hit ball, but it ended up way past the green. Oh my God, I don't need you to hear my thought process at the time, but look at that sunset. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. That is super pretty. That is way prettier than any of the golf that you have seen today by far. Oh, and I hit it super soft. What a surprise. Dude, I am just so bad. It is crazy. I hit it too hard on the putt from the fringe on the green here. I don't know what's going on, man. and I just missed the putt, and Jesus.
I'm tied. I'm tied right now. I'm both plus 17 on the previous one, and I'm plus 17 on this one. Gross 44, gross 47 on the past one. So I pretty much need to par this in order to stay even. Well, if you count hole 7 as a par and not a bogey, we broke even. Oh man.
Okay, did I cheat a little bit? Maybe. But I'm trying to get back to what I was playing like with my baseline score. When I'm out with my friends, I'm not trying to play super perfectly. And so if it's a gimme putt, it's a gimme putt. If I need a breakfast ball at lunchtime, give me a breakfast ball on hole 5. So honestly, I was trying to play a little bit more realistic, trying to play where it lies. I mean, I played where it lied every single time. It's just that there was a couple times at the tee box and stuff like that that I would hit, particularly with the driver shot, just because I really wanted to hit a good drive on camera. Can you blame a guy? But yeah, ended up being exactly the same as what I did in my baseline in terms of the overall performance. I would say that I probably hit overall better just because I gave myself, I think, a little bit more mulligans here and there, a little bit more extra shots or a gimme putt here and there that I probably would have given myself on this second attempt that I didn't because I was trying to record a video, and at the time in my baseline didn't know that this video was even conceptualized yet. But regardless of all those limitations, what did we actually learn? Well, for starters, I'm not that good at golf. And by the fact of the pure performance measures of it being the exact same score, you could argue that there was nothing that was actually beneficial for Wii Golf, but I would actually argue that I did see improvement. It's just not in all aspects of the game, which kind of shows to the same performance level. One of the biggest improvements that I had was my iron game. My irons were on that day. I mean, I was hitting pretty shots. I was getting onto the green in 2, maybe 3 strokes. I mean, it was really nice. Overall, my swings felt better and my ball trajectory was heavily improved. Which makes you wonder, is it because I practiced with a 5-iron the entire time? Potentially, yes. I mean, that is something that we would have to consider, but I would hypothesize that if I were to unduct tape my Wii Remote every single time, depending on the type of club that I needed, I don't think we would see much difference of the improvement. Particularly, I don't think it would change my chipping in my putting game because I think that the Wii Golf technology is not that accurate for chipping and putting. So it really didn't help for the improvement of my short game at all. Okay, so now to answer the question at hand, does Wii Golf help you become a better golfer? Yes and no. I just argue that there are some aspects that I feel like I got better at because of this 2-week intervention period where I hit over 100 holes of Wii Golf. However, this is just a singular subject. I am just an N of 1 person, and there's a lot of variation that could come across. I might have just had a coincidence or something might have happened. That's the problems with just having one participant in a study. You don't know if that's a representation of the entire population or if it's just kind of an off chance, right? We think that everything's going to be following a normal distribution or a bell curve. However, I could have been an outlier on one side or the other. I could have been completely worse, or I could have been a lot better than what realistically is the case. So that's why we want to power these actual research studies for real research and not just like a funny, stupid YouTube video to find out statistically if there's stuff that is significant. Additionally, it's difficult with intervention or like longitudinal things over time, like training studies, to understand when is enough time. When is it going to actually reach a certain threshold? Is 2 weeks good enough time, or will it take 2 months? We don't know. And the fact that feasibility wise, sometimes for data collections, you can only use 2 weeks of data. If you don't find anything, is it because the study actually just didn't work? Like the treatment protocol, the Wii Golf training, did that not work, or did I just not have enough time with it? You know what I mean? That's kind of another limitation with these types of studies. But yeah, that is pretty much it. We don't know unless we have more people. So if we have more people, if you're interested in doing it for yourself, let me know how it goes. Hopefully we can create just a bunch of people just through just through a YouTube video. That'd be pretty fun. But yeah, we'll have to have future investigations look at this a little bit more to find definitive conclusions. But personally, I would say that it may help a little bit. All right, that's all from me. Yeah, thanks for making it to this part of the video. I greatly appreciate it. Goodbye now.